what I've been trying to do recently, and I'll show you. I guess this is a little taste of something new. Was working on sort of a pitch for a film trailer, so I can show you. So I have some of those kind of bass sounds in it, and but then just against sort of your stereotypical trailer kind of sounds. So this will probably be a bit louder. So let's see. So like that sort of thing where I'm trying to mix like those big noisiest style bass sounds, but with something that's very cinematic and moody. I mean, they sort of tread on that territory a little bit, but this is for a trailer, so I was trying to go for that vibe. But yeah, that's so far all I've been able to do with this whole new series of bass sounds. But I can't wait to actually write some music with them or incorporate them. Let's see, and also because the reason why I'm spending time on this is I do feel like this is really an important aspect of what I do and like of what I think I can pass along is that spending the time in creating your sounds, because I reuse them all the time too. Like it's like, and once you have your own library of sounds, you can reuse them, because then instead of it being ripping off yourself, you're creating like signatures, or that's how I rationalize it. So like this sound is a guitar based pad that I use again all the time in almost everything. And in different octaves it sounds good. Let's see. Okay, part of the problem is it's set in mono and unison. So I can play different notes here. And the idea with this is I was listening to Nine Inch Nails' Warm Place, and the intro to that has some kind of looping guitar tremolo part, like where it's being picked and repeated. It's really beautiful. So I wanted to come up with something similar like that. So I just played a part that's similar, and I have it looping. But also when you play it in higher octaves, it takes on sort of a crystallized kind of sound, which is nice. So in a lot of stuff I have sounds that are based on this in the background. Like probably the majority of the tracks on Emergence have it. Anything new that I've worked on, or other projects like for other people, I use this sound all the time. And so the time that it took to do it, which was several hours at the time, maybe felt like a waste of time, but it ends up saving you a lot of time. And that's why I really think like spending time on your sound design is very, very well worth it. Another one here that's I really like too is this is just one note from when I did a remix of Transgenic. Like we did sort of we remixed our version of it, and I have like this guitar bass pad in it, and I liked one note in it a lot. Let's see, let me find the octave. Just kind of a moody note, makes me think of like Aliens and so this is something I use this note a lot. So that's another thing too. Like I'll mine through the tracks that are already done and look for things that I can pull out to use for future stuff as well. Yeah. So most of it, like in this case, is there's lots of guitars in that. In terms of the drums, the clicks and things are just programmed like similar to like what I showed in Parks on Fire. In terms of any sort of live drum sounds, most of those are cut from that Sean Lee's Planet of the Breaks, like where the drum sounds start from like a loop in that, because I like to do the, just like you do with vinyl, like if you sampled a beat and then you cut it up and make a whole new beat out of it. I'm a little too afraid to sample from vinyl in terms of like, worried about like just the legal issues of sampling someone else's music. So, like Planet of the Breaks, it's like sounds really good. I love the drum sounds in it, so I use that a lot of the time as starting material to then slice up, or I've made even I don't have them on this computer, but kits of drum sounds from that. Yeah.
This is a bit off topic, I'm just curious, what exactly all do you do for a living? And I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a couple things. So it's teach at Pure Mind, and then it's I do a lot of session work as actually a guitar player. So I did all the guitars for Assassin's Creed 2 and for Borderlands, so video game stuff like that. And then we also license some of our music catalog to things like we've had Transgenic was in CSI this year. We licensed some things to CSI 2 years ago. Parks on Fire has been in Top Gear, BBC's Top Gear twice. So a lot of licensing of things, and then I also just collaborate with other people too. Like there's a guy I work with in Berkeley that's just composes music for commercials, and so I work with him on making music for commercials sometimes of like Priceline, like doing cheesy spy music or whatever. But whatever needs to happen, like it's to support the habit of making the music that want to make. So yeah.
Do you happen to know which episodes of Top Gear you're
Yeah, it's episode 13, I think, of season 9 or 10. I'm not sure. It's actually, but it is on the internet. Like you can type in Trifonic and Top Gear, and people have it have figured it out. But it's funny because some of that stuff too, depending on how you go about that, like in terms of licensing, like we didn't even know about it until it like people told us, like, oh, I heard Parks and Fire and Top Gear, and like, oh, okay, because if there's companies and stuff that like where they'll it's non-exclusive agreements, well they'll try to license material on your behalf, but you give them permission basically to figure out the contract, and then a lot of times they don't notify you. You just get like royalties on something or well, no, so like, well, we're BMI in terms of our publishing, but there's like companies like Rumblefish and I don't know, Getty Images where they do like basically like they try to license music and things like that, but they take a really big cut, which is typical. I mean, that's how it sort of works. But yeah, so the living is, I mean, just like any musicians, like you certainly don't get into it for making a living. Well, I mean, you have to make a living, but like for the point of making like a really comfortable living, I think that's a very challenging. It's like, sometimes things are really good, and other times it's it's difficult. But I'm learning that it's really the variety, just doing a variety of things, like a combination of teaching, of creating music that can generate money, just doing whatever commercial projects that need to get done. That but from each of those different avenues, you learn different things and you gain new experience, and it gives you more perspective, I think, when you come back to just music. So I mean, I like teaching a lot because it's like then it forces me to learn new things and make sure that I sort of know what I'm talking about, and then also usually feel inspired. Whereas sometimes, like if you work on music all day, like, and then you go to work on your own music, like if you're working on something else, like a commercial, and you work on it all day long, the kind of last thing you want to do is spend another few hours in front of your computer making something that you want to make. You just, feel burnt out. So the nice thing about doing stuff that's sort of related, but that's not exactly music making, is that, it's that I can feel inspired to make music, and, and even after a full day, come back and like feel excited about making some music, making some progress. So, yeah. So let's see. I think in terms of the like kits and sound stuff, I think that's probably it in terms of that. So what I want to do is show you a little bit of the song "Lies," which I'll play you first, just so you, in case you haven't heard it, and can talk a little bit about that process and a little bit about like what's happening with the vocals and sort of how I sometimes like to approach processing, which is similar to the way I do it with other things as well. So I'll just play you "Lies" real quick so you can hear that.
When you walked away, it was the saddest day that the world has known. Shattered my heart and left me with pieces of a broken home. Now you say
Ooh. So yeah, that song was like turned out really nice, and that's our friend Amelia that's singing on that. Amelia June, she's like amazing singer, songwriter. So it's definitely helps when you have a good vocalist. Makes the work a lot easier in terms of getting everything to work out. The funny thing too, then this track was licensed to a 90210 promo. It was like really melodramatic. It was really funny to watch it to that. Anyway, so this song, I'll show you sort of where this started, this idea, and how that evolved. With this one, Lawrence started the chord progression on this. Lawrence also he wrote the lyrics and the melody for it. So it's pretty much that's why it's like a pretty awesome song. Like I can't write lyrics at all, and so this track he started basically. When we did this song, this was before we started this before we started like Parks on Fire and that sort of thing. And so at the time we kind of didn't know what we were gonna do because like sort of we're thinking that we'd do something more in the rock direction because I just moved back from working at BT Studio and I was kind of like, oh, electronic. Like I wanted to do electronic, but I wanted something more rock based because I just was getting, I don't know, just feeling a little burnt. So. We started in sort of this direction, and then quickly things developed in a different direction over time. But this track started as just as the mood for it is in these pads here. I don't remember what the content was. It's either piano or guitar, but it was on. This was on the ASR 10, right? Is that where these pads? Do you know what was it? A guitar or piano sample in there? Yeah, so it was either piano or guitar, and then it's that we have an ASR 10 sampler, and just it has like a nice reverb on it. So Lawrence made these pads on the ASR 10, and so it kind of sets a nice mood. And then in terms of the drums, I think these were just programmed in BFD, but we didn't end up really keeping them. So I'll skip ahead. So then usually the next step, kind of similar to Parks on Fire, is like kind of like, all right, how do I expand this idea? So for me, it's usually like, all right, I'll play some guitars. So I figured out most of the guitar parts. Okay, and then there's also some drums in here too. So kind of busy, but you can hear those are the guitar parts that are actually in the final version. I'm not sure why these are doubled. I think they're different. Maybe it's different microphones because these are the same parts. But there's basically 3 guitar parts here that all interact together. So here's the. And then here's the second one. I like to work with like really simple things that work together to make something complicated. Instead of trying to come up with a complicated idea from the outset, or onset, or however you say that. Just because I think that then you can strip things down and find which elements work well together. So here's the third part. But these all ended up working well together. And then, of course, there's guitar harmonics. These ones are on electric guitar. And then I have a slide part in here too. I'll need some of these other ones. So it kind of sounds like a pedal steel, but it's just a slide on electric guitar with way too much reverb. And then another layer of harmonics. And these are all kind of unedited, so together with the beat, it's a little bit busy. So we started to explore this direction a bit, but and so we took that to kind of its logical end, which is the next session here, and that's what we recorded vocals to. Yes. Yeah. It ended up being both. So some of it was recorded with a microphone, just an SM57 in front of an amp. I have a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe. It's just like a 12-inch speaker, tube amp. It sounds really nice. And then some of it was direct. The slide guitar part and the harmonics were direct and using Amp Simulator. So let's see. I'll talk about this. I'll show you this session. This is what we recorded vocals to. So this idea for Lies expanded out in its rock form before we started to decide to take it in a more electronic direction. Like live bass and everything. It's kind of muddy. So you can hear it's really a different direction than where it ended up, even though the sort of roots of it are kind of there. But it just, it wasn't totally working out in this direction. Like it sounded, we thought, oh, this is pretty good, but it just wasn't really good enough. So then that's kind of when sometimes you go back to the drawing board and you're like, well, what do you do? So, or take it to in this case, what we did was we recorded vocals to this because it took us recording the vocals to it to realize that this background wasn't really right. So I'll show you sort of our vocal session that's a little bit of an unwieldy mess, but you can see how things are laid out at least. What there is at the top here is a bounce of what we just heard. And then I have all of Amelia's vocals here, and these are actually on the same number track, so it's just all track 2 here, and the different takes laid out. And then I sort of, have this little puzzle color coding thing of the bits that I like. So like we could listen to this one full take here of this verse, and this is without any tuning, and this take's probably not that great. Let's see.
When you walked away, it was the saddest day that the world has known. Shattered my heart and left me with pieces of a broken home. Now you say you need me, standing at the door, asking if you can come in, and I can't say no, no, I can't say no.
So even the melody is kind of different, like different takes, she sort of did different things. And so what I like to do is go through and just by like little phrase by phrase figure out, what's good and comp that together. And so now in Logic 9 you have comping tools that make it where you don't have to do this whole grid thing like this. You can sort of do it all in one process. And I think things like Cubase and whatnot have good comping tools as well. So but then so I ended up, for each different take here, just picking out the best little bit, and then this is sort of what I ended up, let's see.
When you walked away, it was the saddest day that the world has known. Shattered my heart and left me with pieces of a broken home. Now you say you need me, standing at the door, asking if you can come in. And I can't say no, no, I can't say no.
So, it takes a while. I mean, if any of you have probably done vocal comping before, it's like it's a lot of tedious work, even with really good singers. I mean, Amelia, like, I don't even think we captured her as well as she can be captured, because there's something just magical about hearing her sing. That's just even, yeah, it's really hard to capture. But she's great, and it still takes a lot of comping to sort of get the best performance. Is there a question there?
Yeah. Do you do sort of like multi-tracking with the vocals and layer them down?
Yeah. So the question is about multi-tracking the vocals. Like, so in this case, in this session that we did, we did record a bunch of doubles, but we didn't end up using them because it just wasn't the right thing. Like, her voice is really intimate, and it's just it didn't sound good when, because actually, if I zoom out a bit here, you can see this session is really massive in terms of tracks. And so a lot of these were doubles. And then for the chorus part here, I cut up the doubles, and there's all kinds of crazy crossfading to get the timing exactly the same, so that the double, basically what I do is the lead, I want to sound natural. The doubles don't need to, so I can cut things off and have them fade out. And on its own, it can sound unnatural. It's really about how it supports the main vocal, but it just didn't sound right with doubling in this track. Like, I think that works for like more aggressive vocals and like pop vocals, but it just, in this case, it wasn't happening really. We also recorded a male vocalist for this, my friend David, that kit that I was playing earlier. And unfortunately, it just didn't come out right. Like, he was a great singer, and it was totally worth having him do it, but none of it ended up working in the song. And that happens too. You kind of just have to do stuff and roll with it. Even if you, and that kind of touches on another point that I'd like to address, of just that it's really easy to get attached to ideas, especially if they have any kind of merit or any kind of good to it, and it's hard to let go of them. But and that's why, again, it's really important to get perspective on things, because sometimes a part on its own is really cool, but it doesn't fit in the song. And so I know that with Trifonic, a lot of times we have, like, I hold on to parts a long time, and Lawrence will be like, no, it's that's just not going to work. And and usually it's like that's the case. Like, it just doesn't work, but you get attached to your ideas. And I see that a lot also when with like students and things, and hearing people's demos and stuff like that. It's like people will have some cool thing, but it just doesn't fit. It's like they just threw it in there, and but that's really easy to do. It's hard. It's very hard to just, especially if it's actually a cool part on its own, to not just like throw it in there because it's cool, but if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. So so that was sort of the case with the vocals here. Like, actually, some of David's vocals are all right, but they just didn't fit, and they didn't work together with Amelia's. So ended up having to make that not happen. So so this is just sort of normal comping. There's nothing that I need to talk too much about it, but what I want to do is show you the effects. Not on this particular session, but Amelia also sang on a song, Broken. And so I'm going to show you the broken effects section, because the vocal effects, because the vocal effects on that are super cool, and I actually use them in a lot of other stuff. Like, I just take her wet signal, like some of the delays and things, and put them in the background of other tracks as pads or as other ambient bits. So I'm going to go ahead and close this project. And this other session is it's another OS9 Insanity session. So what I have to do is turn off. Okay, this is the problem with dealing with like old Logic sessions and dealing with new computers, is like making everything play nice with each other. So I have to turn off this universal track mode. And then after this session, I have to remember to turn that back on, because otherwise other things don't play back properly. Okay, so let's see if this works. So this is the Amelia effects session from Broken. So basically, so I have her dry vocals like in this red here, so you can just hear. Let's see.
This house is cold and empty, just a ghost of who I used to be.
So then underneath, I've got this kind of stuff happening, which I really like, and I used on a bunch of stuff. So what I did was take certain words and put them onto whole separate tracks. Again, this goes back to even the first thing I was talking about, those clicks and spreading them out on different tracks for different processing. Because sometimes like just putting one reverb or delay on a vocal it's just kind of boring. It depends on the context, but if it's electronic music where the sound design is part of it, then you want to treat the vocals in the same way as the rest of your sounds and not just plop them on top of like your electronic track. So I wanted to design the vocals while maintaining a naturalness. So I'd cut out certain words like that, she says used to be, so the B, and then this is the echo from that, but it's reversed. And dude, I do a bunch of different layers of that on different tracks. Like there's other vocal effects too. Like let's see, just try with different settings. And Echo Farm is really great. Like the line 6 one is really nice. I got really nice echoes from that. Like those kind of background parts, which this is probably a larger audio file here. Yay, it didn't crash. So let's see. So yeah, this is just like an echo. I got something soloed here. Oh, look at all these highlighted tracks. Okay. So you can sort of hear the end of her word there, the very beginning, and then it's just an echo that was automated to feedback, and then I just ended up using a little bit of it. So really designing basically the effects in this, so the wet effects. So let's see, so together with her vocals, it's kind of like... and have it, in like whatever musical element came in there, it sort of leads up to it. So it's thinking of ways to make it dynamic, and let's see what other background.
My own reflection. Wonder if you'd
So just reflection, I just have a little different speed echo too. So you couldn't just do this with one delay. And then I've got another one here. And that's recognize me. This is just the wet signal of that. And let's see on this other track here, I've got other ones. But I really like this process for vocals. And I ended up using these sounds a lot in other things. Let's see, there's a couple other good ones in here. Like that one. Oh, I love this sound. I use this a lot too. It's a really moody echo. No, so these were, because this was an OS 9 and it's using Pro Tools hardware, the reverb would be Deverb, because that's the only one I have in terms of that. But the delays I have like Echo Farm, and I had a Sound Toys pitch blender. Sound Toys plugins, by the way, are really great. Like I have the native bundle for now for like Echo Boy and all that. Like just their delay effects and their filter stuff is really great. Yeah, and the reverb and all this is just Deverb, which just comes with it. So just lots of echoes and trying to do different types of wet effects. And so Lies, I didn't do as much of that because the track is more busy. So that's why I just wanted to show Broken as an approach possibly to customizing your effects on vocals. I mean, obviously you can ride the level of a reverb or delay. And you can ride the level, like if you had a bunch of different sends with different reverbs and delays, you could do the same thing. Like this is kind of an inefficient way of doing that, and wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Nowadays I'd just do it with buses, like just have buses sending to aux tracks that all have different reverbs and delays and different delay times and reverb times, and then automating the amount going to those sends. And then maybe printing a version as audio that's just the wet track so that you can, have things cut off instantly, like, have a reverb or delay instantly cut off at a musical moment. But yeah, just having a variety of vocal effects, I think, is definitely cool. So let's see here. And now I have to remember to switch this back on. Universal track mode. Okay, so after we had the vocal session with Amelia, we were like, okay, we need to rethink this. So we decided to go around the house and bang stuff and record it and see if that inspired anything. So so I think Lawrence was doing the banging, I was doing the recording, so to speak. So that's a cabinet. And then let's see, more cabinet stuff. Lots of them, I guess. It's different. That was the tea kettle, I think, with some water in it. Yeah, yeah. So yes, question? No. So this was we have like one of those micro track, the M Audio micro track things. Just it's like a portable recorder, and it has like a little microphone that comes with it. That's it's just a cheapo, but it's a stereo mic, and it sounds fine for this sort of stuff. And for vocals too, we'd never used SM57. It's like because the range on that's really limited. It's good. It's a dynamic mic. It's good for like guitars and things, but for like a female vocal or something, it's too like we use a condenser mic. Audio Technica AT4050, I think, is or the 4040, one of those. So went around the house. Yeah. But this is where all the clicks that you hear in the song lies, like all those clicks in the high end in the background, all started from some kind of sounds around the house, bottles and things. And this goes on for, like there's a radio, let's see, light switches and things. So anyway, don't need to bore you with all the details of that, but so the next session is where we had cut that into a kit and started to explore programming like some kitchen sounds and things into making a new background for the track. So now this first version of it's pretty weak, but you got to start somewhere. So anyway, here's the little beat that we made from the kitchen stuff. And there's like some light bulb, you can hear it, like light bulb filament rattling in there, you know. And it kind of works, but it's kind of like Stomp or something, or like some 90s, like, or like some, commercial where it's like bouncing, basketballs bouncing, and like, I don't know. It's like just this rhythm, that's all. Like, it's just like, I kind of like it now, maybe. But didn't really work for this track. Still kind of in the rock direction, but this was the beginning of like new journey in this. So what I did was I'd printed stems from that before, like the session that we recorded vocals to, so that I could and just start a new session from scratch. Where I was like, all right, let me rethink this, and I pulled in some of those things like the bass and that distorted guitar, and it was like, okay, let's see what I can do with this. And so this was that first step in that direction, although certainly nothing profound. Let's see. So then what I did was I took it to OS 9 and really did some serious editing. So I'll show you that. So I have to do this universal track mode thing so that it plays it back properly. So I can't wait to just be only making music on my latest computer and not have to ever trek back to these old computers and deal with moving stuff between computers, and it can really be a nightmare. It's these sessions just don't open up on outside of their original computer and properly. I mean, it's like it mostly opens. I can demonstrate it, but it's I'm not anymore really. I haven't. I recently got an iMac, like one of the new ones, and it's a lot more powerful. I had a G5 before that was lasted 5 years, which is a really good long time for computer life. But yeah, so the iMac is it's so much faster. It's unbelievable. So and with Logic 9 and being able to do the whole flex audio, that's what made me sort of realize, I was like, all right, this could save me a lot of time and just everything. So that's sort of what happened.